take you to somebody who people think might be the next House Speaker, potentially. We don't have that yet, but Nancy Pelosi. Let's listen in.
People for our seniors and hardworking American families. Health care was on the ballot, and health care won. Yesterday, Americans elected an extraordinary class of dynamic and diverse Democratic candidates. Members elected who reflect their districts and who embody the bountiful diversity of our nation. Women led the way to victory, with at least 30 new women coming to the Congress. Is that not exciting? And there's still some races that are not finalized yet, so there could be more. Democrats also secured big wins in the governorships across the country. And while it is my responsibility to win the House for the Democrats, winning the governorships is essential to good policy in our country and open elections and the rest. So victories in Wisconsin, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Michigan, New Mexico, and Nevada. We're very proud in New Mexico that our colleague, Michelle Lujan Grisham, is now the governor. In Colorado, Jared Polis is now the governor, our current colleague, even though that's replacing a Democratic governor, a great governor, Governor Hickenlooper. So that wasn't a pickup, but it is a Democratic member there. Tim Walz in Minnesota, our colleague, again, winning in Minnesota. So for us, just seeing that the extraordinary leadership of these members going into governor's offices, seeing the increased number of Democratic governorships, it was a great night for the American people. We won because from the beginning, we focused on health care. 2 years ago today, the day after the election, not the same date, but the same day after the election, everyone came together and said, we see the urgency, we want to take responsibility, and that gave us opportunity to protect the Affordable Care Act. That was so essential to the health and financial security of America's working families, and we knew it would be a target of the Trump administration. So just so you know that by that Sunday, we had mobilized many of the groups outside. They were self-mobilized as well, but we all came together, depending on despite where we might be on the spectrum on other issues, to say this was our focus. We made a plan to launch our campaign on the weekend of Martin Luther King Day, you know when that is, in January, and we did. After the president's inauguration, as you know, something historic happened in our country, the Women's March, and much of that was about health care, women's reproductive health, excuse me, health care. The beat goes on. Over the course of that next year and a half, working with the outside groups, and they deserve a great deal of credit, and I'm proud of our democratic unity in the Congress of the United States and our inside maneuvering. That unity was essential to the clarity of our message and our differentiation from the Republicans on that subject. But working together, voting together, we were able to make our case. The outside groups, and we participated in some of this, but the outside groups had 10,000 events across the country speaking out about the risk that was involved in Republican policy in terms of health care in our country. There are assaults on Medicare, Medicaid, there are assaults on the benefit of a pre-existing medical condition being taken away, all of that, so much more. The issue about the cost of prescription drugs, all of those issues by groups, coalitions, HCAN, Protect Our Care, little lobbyists, advocacy groups of patient advocacy groups across the country, labor unions, veterans. The list goes on and on of so many people who were involved in that. Leading up to this being on the ballot, and when some of you have said to me, how did this emerge as the issue in the campaign? My answer is we made our own environment because we knew how important healthcare is, not only to the good health of families, but to the financial well-being of their families, healthcare cost being such a major assault on their economic security. And when we put together our For the People agenda, our first priority was to lower the health care cost by lowering the cost of prescription drugs. Leader Mitch McConnell went forth and really admitted that Medicare and Medicaid and some aspects of Social Security disability benefits were on the chopping block. The president pulled his punch when it came time to lowering the cost of prescription drugs by enabling the secretary to negotiate for that. So this is very important. That was For the People, lower health care costs, bigger paychecks by building the infrastructure of America, integrity in government by reducing the role of big dark money in the political spectrum. That was our agenda. Our candidates ran with it. But healthcare, healthcare, healthcare in every household in America is an important issue. The man whose office I occupy now, Speaker Tip O'Neill, he said all politics is local. When it comes to healthcare, all politics is personal. And so, again, we made our own environment. While the GOP tried relentlessly to distract and divide, our candidates kept their focus on that subject. And when I say our candidates for re-election as well. Voters delivered a resounding verdict against congressional Republicans' attacks on Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act and people with pre-existing conditions in districts everywhere in America. They went in a new direction, a house that will, now they want a new direction, a house that will work to make progress in the lives of America's families and seniors. Democrats pledge, again, a new majority, our For the People agenda, lower health care costs, lower prescription drugs, bigger paychecks, building the infrastructure, clean up corruption to make America work for the American people's interest, not the special interest. Yesterday's election was not only a vote to protect America's health care, it was a vote to restore the health of our democracy. The health of our democracy. Under the Constitution, I'm proud that the legislative branch is the Article 1, the first branch of government, the legislative branch. Right after that beautiful preamble stating our purpose, Article 1, the legislative branch. There as a co-equal branch of the other branches of government and a check and balance on other branches of government. The American people want to put an end to unchecked GOP control of Washington, restoring, again, the checks and balances envisioned by our founders. That's a responsibility we have when we take that oath to protect and defend the Constitution. And we as Democrats are here to strengthen the institution in which we serve and not to have it be a rubber stamp for President Trump. House Democrats will honor our responsibility to the Constitution, as I said, have a concert, how we will do things. We will open the Congress with a rule that will insist upon openness and transparency so that the American people can see the impact of public policy on their lives, putting an end to what the Republicans did with their tax scam in the dark of night with the speed of light, no hearings on a bill that would have trillions of dollars of impact on our economy. That's over. We will strive in that openness with American people as our partners because they will see the impact of legislation on their lives. We will strive for bipartisanship. We believe that we have a responsibility to seek common ground where we can. Where we cannot, we must stand our ground, but we must try. And so openness and transparency, accountability, bipartisanship, a very important part of how we will go forward. We believe that's a responsibility we have to honor the vision of our founders. They gave us, in their declaration, a call for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. How beautiful. But they also gave us guidance on how to achieve that. E pluribus unum, from many one. They couldn't imagine how many we would become or how different we would be from each other. But they knew that we had to strive for oneness, recognizing that this is a marketplace of ideas. We have different views on the role of government, and that's a healthy debate. for the American people to witness and for us to have. We do so with confidence in our values and our proposals, but also with humility to listen and hear what others may have to say. And so that will be the kind of Congress that we have, one, again, that honors the guidance of e pluribus unum. Last night, I had a conversation with President Trump about how we could work together. One of the issues that came up was part of our For the People agenda, building the infrastructure of America, and I hope that we can achieve that. He talked about it during his campaign and really didn't come through with it in his first 2 years in office, but that issue has not been a partisan issue in the Congress of the United States. Over the years, we've been able to work together regionally, bipartisan, across the aisle, across the Capitol, and down Pennsylvania Avenue. Hope that we can do that because we want to create jobs from sea to shining sea, creating good-paying jobs, whether it's about surface transportation, water systems. My colleague, Congresswoman Eshe, was here at Champion on broadband, always on, high-speed broadband across America to end the digital divide, especially into rural areas as well as urban areas, and then schools, housing, and the rest. Those jobs, those initiatives will create good-paying jobs, will also generate other economic growth in their regions. So we hopefully we can work in a bipartisan way in that way. The other issue that we could hopefully work on is lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and that is something the President has talked about. We had it in our 6 for 06 12 years ago when we won the House. 5 of those 6 became law. The one we couldn't get 60 votes in the Senate for was enabling the Secretary to negotiate for lower prescription drug prices. We hope to get that done now because that is a big impact on America's family's budget. And then the third really caffeinating issue for us is integrity in government, to reduce the role of dark special interest money. And I commend all of our candidates for their commitment to the health care agenda, to the bigger paycheck agenda, and also to the good government agenda. They have written letters saying that they want H.R. 1, which is our better deal for America's democracy, to be something they vote on. But I say to them, when you come here, you will have an impact on what that legislation is. You may want to make some additions or some tweaking, but nonetheless, our newcomers will be part of putting together how the agenda goes forward, and we look forward to that invigoration of the Congress. I also spoke to Leader McConnell this morning, and how we could work together, especially on infrastructure. I did receive a call of congratulations from Speaker Ryan, and I welcomed that, and we discussed how it is to win and how it is not to win in terms of this. So in any event, the concern that he was expressing was about for some of his colleagues who would no longer be serving. On that point, I want to say something, because in winning this election, not only were we on the right side of history, we're on the right side of the future. This is where we have to go. But when we talk about the challenges that we face, we had to jump over gerrymandered lines all over the country. So when we talk about our success, it's about the grassroots operation, owning the ground. All of these groups that cared about health care, many of them out there to help elect people who shared their value about lowering health care costs, removing lifetime caps, even annual caps on insurance coverage, and certainly restoring the benefit of pre-existing conditions not being a barrier to coverage. Most importantly, though, are the quality of our candidates. They're spectacular from every walk of life, and some of them from a couple of different walks of life. And when they come here, they'll bring their experience, their knowledge, and especially their values to the Congress. We look forward to that. This is no easy feat to win this election. I hear the president attributing to this, that, and the other thing. But when you think of how gerrymandered the country is, how we hope to change that, but nonetheless, how we were able to succeed in this election is a tribute, again, to the quality of our candidates, the determination of our grassroots folks across the country, and the values that we share with the American people. In terms of working with the president, I just would say that I worked very productively with President Bush when we had the majority and he had the presidency. We passed one of the biggest energy bills in the history of our country. We passed one of the biggest tax bills in terms of stimulus for low-income people as well as middle-income people in his presidency. And the list goes on. PEPFAR, he wanted PEPFAR, we want it big. And there's so many issues that we worked together, even though I vehemently opposed him in the war in Iraq. But the point is that we worked together. The president said, I'll wait for them to send me something. Well, we have ideas, and we can send them something. But the fact is, if we'd like to work together, so our legislation will be bipartisan. We're not going for the lowest common denominator. We're going for the boldest common denominator. Our position will be a consensus within our own party of what we can support, but also welcoming other ideas. So we look forward to a new era in terms of what has happened. It's this past 2 years, it seemed like a very, very long time in terms of the path it has taken us down. When I think of our founders and their courage, their vision, what they had in mind for us, si pluribus from anyone, when I think of the American people and how beautifully diverse we are and how newcomers to our country have constantly reinvigorated America, when I think of our beautiful planet and, of course, our own country, God's gift to us, and how it has been neglected and degraded in this past couple of years, I think that there's plenty of opportunity for us to match our legislation with the rhetoric that we are hearing. It might surprise you to know that the president I quoted the most on the campaign trail, who would you think? Ronald Reagan. And I won't read you the whole quote, but I'll read you just one paragraph. Ronald Reagan said, "This is the last speech that I will make as President of the United States, and I want to, it's fitting to leave one final thought, an observation about a country which I love." His last speech. That's quite a headliner, right, in your business? Ronald Reagan's last speech. He said, "Thanks to each new wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation." Goes on to say, if we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost. If we ever close the door, our leadership would soon be lost. So in that respect for the vision of our founders, the diversity of our country, the beauty of our land, the values in our Constitution first and foremost, we think there's an opportunity to work together.